I am so proud to introduce all of you to my friend, Brian D. Ridgway, who is fondly called the Spellbreaker. And the reason he's called the Spellbreaker is that in a lot of cases, the reason why humanity is not living to its fullest potential is because we are under different paradigm constructs that we're not even aware of. And he can cut through that information like a knife. So Brian, welcome and thank you for coming. So I know it's early in Hawaii. I know you lost a little of your beauty sleep because I saw you on Facebook last night. You guys, Brian Ridgway is one of my mentors. I discovered his work probably 5 years ago, and I can't say enough about it. I've done, like so many of us, have done lots of classes and programs that help you identify your obstacles to being the greatest part of you. But I've never seen anyone with a program and systems like Brian has, because he truly lives it. This is not someone who just talks about it or creates a program and you go through the program, that's it. You have to actually be on your toes and prepared to move your stuff. I cry a lot around Brian. He also has been very, very, very generous with how he's shared his worldview with all of us, where he has a free book that he gives away called Break Your Self-Help Addiction. And he also has this incredible meditation called Breath of Life 2.0 that I do every single day. And I think that's why I'm doing so well during this lockdown. And so I am so grateful to you, Brian. Welcome. Welcome to this event.
Beautiful. Thank you, Kathy. I'm grateful to be doing what I'm doing for sure.
So where do you want to start? We're talking about unity and how to create a movement. And from what I know about working with you, everything you do is an inside job. The inside creates the outside. So how would you like to start? I trust that whatever streams through you is going to be the most glorious.
Well, I'll flow, and then you feel free to ask questions. And of course, some people may bring something up in the chat. Okay. I would just say, you know, this concept of unity, as I got invited to present here, and unity is, I mean, it's the only thing I'm about. It's the fact that we're all one. And I started 9 years ago when I started doing my work. I just do what I am, actually, so I don't separate business and personal at all. When I started doing this work 9 years ago, I was helping people to dissolve problems. And then about 1.5 years into that, I realized, no, I'm helping people dissolve the illusion of problems. And so for the last 8 years, that's the phrase that I've used the most. When people say, what do you do? I say, well, you don't really want to ask, but since you did, let me tell you, I help people to step into living as the infinite, unlimited being that they are, going beyond self-help and law of attraction by dissolving the illusion of problems. And of course, that either gets, okay, or tell me more. And Tobias. So I now see over the last year or so, what I'm really doing is I'm living and modeling and practicing living in absolute oneness, unity, and modeling that and having people come to me that actually want to be free. And the answer to freedom, the answer to solving all of your personal and all of your global problems.
You need to stop. Don't bother.
Oh, something just flipped, Kathy.
Yeah, sorry about that.
All good.
Technical.
The answer to solving all of your personal problems and all of the global problems is the exact same answer. There's only one answer, and that is tapping into your infinite being, the oneness behind us all. And I'm certainly not the only person talking about it. However, I've had the really strange experience for the last couple of years of looking for someone who does it similarly to the way I do it, and who actually helps people to step into it. So many people are teaching it. Lots of people are talking about it. And just to be clear, there's going to be an amazing audience of people. This may be the day where someone reaches out to me after this session and says, hey, here's the person you've been looking for. Because I've been looking for over 40 years for someone doing something like this. And I find myself in the very strange position of helping people step into oneness. And so when this unity event was announced to me, I just, okay. These are the people looking for it, whether they know it or not. So
right. Well, and the thing is that I feel that your processes, I've just gained so much from them. I feel your processes meet people wherever they are. It's not like intro, intermediate, and advanced. You actually can read something and then 2 weeks later read something else and get something else out of it. So it's quite amazing how it meets people where they are. So one of the things I wanted to ask you about to share is quantum questions, because we always have heard that prayer and affirmations are the best way for us to make change in our lives. But you came up with this other process that is quite remarkable that I'm going to mute those guys. Sorry about that. That is called quantum questions. Could you talk about that?
Yeah, and I'll contrast it just a bit with prayer and with affirmations, since you brought those up. So in my view, the only thing that I do is I help people to dissolve that illusion of problems. And so people for the last, since I was 3 years old, I've been doing what I do. And so for 9 years, it's the only thing I've been doing, Kathy. And people literally come to me. I've worked with people in 84 countries, over 120,000 people, over 130,000 now. I actually got to keep updating these numbers. And I have been brought basically every type of issue, every type of so-called challenge, problem that you could imagine. And I meet it with my daughter actually said it the best. She said, Dad, I feel like what you do is you meet people with the infinite. And so it doesn't matter where they're at, it just dissolves it. That's so beautifully said. All right. So I have used virtually every tool that has ever come down the pike to help people to effect that change. And affirmations never worked for me. And I tried dozens of different approaches. I've always known that prayer, although prayer means 100 million different things to 100 million different people, I've always known prayer was the answer. And most people have so much attachment to it that it's a big blur for them, trying to do it the way that they were shown. Affirmations, I see, are basically worthless. And I don't say that to shock anybody or to offend anybody, though sometimes people do get offended when they hear that, especially if they teach or use affirmations with some effect. But they're not always worthless. They can do something, and they're so certainly better than nothing. But when you affirm something, you're putting yourself in opposition to the greater part of yourself that knows otherwise. And so the example I use that is seemingly the easiest for most people is, if you have $5 in the bank and you're telling yourself you're a millionaire, I don't care how you do it, you're in opposition not only to reality, but you're in opposition to the parts of yourself that know you don't have money, ain't going to have money. If you get money, you're going to lose it, and you shouldn't have it because you'd be rich and greedy and selfish. There's so many programs and layers and things added in, not just your beliefs. There's so much more that you're in direct competition with, and you're assaulting with an affirmation. Whereas if you turn it into a question, you ask it from the perspective that, first of all, presumes what you want is true, and second, that remembers that you are the infinite, unlimited one behind all illusions. You formulate your question from there, and you ask a question, and the brain literally doesn't have any choice but to seek the answer for why. So for example, why is it true that no matter how much money I have right now, there's more where that came from? Why is it that I realize I don't actually know that money has to come from where I thought it had to come from? Why am I accepting the possibility today that all the money in the entire existence of the universe of creation is actually all mine, and it's all me? and therefore abundance is. Why is it that abundance is not abundance for me or abundance for us or abundance, more abundance? It's abundance. So therefore there is no limitation. So any idea, why did I finally get that? And when I did, why did money start showing up? And most people can generally just feel the difference in those statements. I see the smile on your face.
Because then you're living from your infinite rather than living from the constricted viewpoint of yourself. I mean, that's what, when you ask a question and then you wait, it is answered and you're not in the way. I mean, these quantum questions, you guys, are the coolest thing I've ever experienced. And they work incredibly well as long as you leave them alone. It's sort of, you don't have to get intricate with it, right?
Right. Okay. And someone just asked, so as you were saying that, Dana said, you answered the why question. You never need an answer with these questions. So I don't want to go too deep into this. There's way too many things to talk about and way too little time for this, but I would just, I want to give one more thing that'll help. So the reason why you don't answer the why is because we've all heard the brain can't tell the difference between reality and imagination. And the reason for that is ultimately because reality is your imagination that has condensed into your experience. The universe is imagination. There isn't anything here that isn't imagination. So reality is just your imagination that's condensed into your experience based on what you think and believe that you know, and all the emotions you're avoiding keeps reflecting on your universe. So the brain, it's true that the brain can't tell the difference between reality and imagination. So with these questions, you're imagining it the way it is, and you're kind of lovingly hitting the brain with the only thing it can't resist, which is a question. And when you ask, why is it true that, the brain goes, wait, is it? And before it can even recover with what it knows, you give it another question from a slightly different angle. And why is it that no matter what, and your brain literally just surrenders and caves in and starts to seek the answer to what it is that you ask. So for today, it might be, why is today the day that so many people were on Co-Creators Convergence today, heard this message, understood oneness in a totally new way, and started radiating it into themselves, their families, their homes, their towns, their cities, their states, their countries? And why is it that at this very moment that this question is being asked, people are radiating oneness in a way they never have before? Oneness is actually spreading beyond this concept of unity, which is nice. Nothing wrong with that concept of unity. The experience of oneness is an entirely different reality. And as I realize the oneness in me and in you, any animosity we might have had fades. And why is it so easy? Now that question, Tricia, I'm gonna go a little bit further, Kathy. So why can't we stop this COVID? Literally puts you in the greatest opposition you could possibly be to the universe and what is. So why is it I realize that COVID is literally another figment of my imagination? No matter how big it may seem to be out there, I'm remembering there is no out there. It's a reflection of me. Why is it I'm accepting the possibility that not only the virus, but whoever and whatever created it or brought it into existence or is using it against me, why is it that I'm recognizing that even that is simply the reflection of what I think and believe, that I know that I'm ultimately responsible. And I no longer have to ask, what can one person do? I can ask, what can one person do? I can tap into my infinite oneness, and I'm no longer just one person. I am the one, and I can unmake anything I've ever made.
So great. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So a couple of people did post something in the chat about your generosity in the Facebook group. There's a Facebook group called Unconditional Happiness that Brian has been so generous every day since the lockdown. He goes on line for free and answers quantum and creates quantum questions. He can do this like on the spot, just like you're watching him right now. He can probably does it in his sleep. But it's amazing the transformation that people are getting, because when you start to look at it and take responsibility for what you've constructed in your own life, this whole pause before the reset that we're in could be the biggest gift you've ever been given, correct?
Absolutely. From where I sit, it is. And from where I sit, I'll say this just to push that over the finish line here. For me,
Thank you.
everything that's happening, no matter what it is, no matter how it looks, is the greatest gift that I could ever receive and give myself. And it's the perception that it's not a gift that creates all the suffering. We think that we're a separate being. So we find ourselves facing these threats that you can only experience when you believe you're a separate being. I would say, I'm just gonna make a wild guess, 70% of the people hearing my voice right now and on the replay actually have some understanding of the idea of oneness and kind of believe it. But that's not even close to the beginning of living it. Because when you're living oneness, if we're all one, what could be a threat? And who would want to threaten who? It is utter nonsense.
It's big though. When you do that, you start going wow, wow, right? Because
Yeah.
then it's more than namaste, the beauty in me sees the beauty of you. This is, I am the creator of everything in my sphere, and I can choose a different creation, what I prefer. And
Yeah.
but that is, you have to be present to do that.
Yeah, that's the key.
Yeah. Okay, so where do we want to go? Thank you so much again. I love you. I love what you do. Thank you so much. I benefit so much.
I love you, Kathy. I'm telling you, this is what I'm here to do. So it's not work for me.
Yeah. So where would you like to go next? Do you want to talk about yourself, your book, the free book, so that people know how they could start breathing through their obstacles?
Yeah, let's do that. And since I'm giving it away, we don't have any worries about self-promotion or anything.
Right,
So I had been working with people as a business. I've been doing this since I was a very small child, being able to look at people and see how they were hurting, where they were hurting, and then to help them to see how they were hurting themselves, where they were limiting themselves, and how to undo it. And about 9 years ago, I started doing it officially. I've been doing it my whole life. So I started a company, Level 5 Mentoring. And then about 4 years ago, I had so many people asking, Brian, could you just condense that into a book? I mean, what you're doing is really complicated. It's really deep. I'm having a hard time. Like, I get it, and then I lose it. I get it, I lose it. If you could put that into a book. So we did. I had some help from some friends, and we ended up putting together the book that I had been looking for 30 plus years that didn't exist. And I jokingly came up, I was working with my publisher, and I jokingly came up with the title. Now, I would say that about 70 to 80% of my audience are people who have been working on themselves for 30 plus years.
Right.
I mean, it's amazing. And my highest level of clients all say that they had spent 5 or 6 figures working on themselves for decades, and their deepest issues were untouched. I always thought about that phrase, self-help junkie, right? Self-help junkie. Why do they use that phrase? Why is it almost universally known, self-help junkie? Nobody's ever thought about it really. But why is that phrase used? Because a junkie is hooked on a drug that they need to get another fix and another fix. Well, there's nothing more full of fixing than the self-help industry, which constantly tells people they're broken and that they need to fix something. I'm reminding people that they're infinite, unlimited, and perfect. There is no fixing. So I tossed out this title, Break Your Self-Help Addiction, and my publisher said, oh my God, that is the one. And so it was born. I don't think a lot of people in the self-help industry actually like me, because I'm saying this is the end of self-help. You don't need self-help. When you admit that you are the infinite, unlimited, perfect one, you stop behaving as a broken one that needs fixing. And so we have been giving the book away. It is for sale on Amazon for people that want the physical copy. But the book's available for free at breakyourselfhelpaddiction.com. And certainly we can post that link somewhere, but it's available right now. When I created the book, I went back and I made a video for every chapter. So at the end of each chapter, you can click a link and you'll see a couple different things. You'll get access to some transformational and liberating tools that you can use, including a way of breathing. This is not prana pranayama. This is not any kind of yoga breathing or techniques. It's actually how to breathe to bring yourself into sane, calm, confident presence. And a lot of people are raving about the effects of that breathing. I know you've used it, Kathy. In every program, all my one-on-one work, it's the center, because until you breathe yourself back into presence, you're just a mind trying to grasp the next piece that you're going to be frustrated about 3 days later.
Can I interject something here?
Please.
I think the other thing about that book, because I got that book at the same time I bought my first course with you, and this was 4 years ago, I think. It was called something different than it is now. But the breathing technique was a way to process the emotions that I had been fooling myself I could just deal with it later.
Yep.
And the breathing allowed me to be totally present, feel the emotions and process them rather than feel them at a surface level.
Right.
Because then whatever you resist persists, correct?
Yep. Yep. Well, and we're all so that leads to the next point, which is that. So I call my whole process that I do, I call it spell breaking. And basically it undoes the mental and the emotional and the physical and the so-called external all at the same time.
Right.
And that breathing, by bringing you into a state of presence where you turn back on again. I mean, listen, the 99% of people on this planet, according to dozens of university studies, major governmental studies and medical studies, the vast majority of people, 99% plus, are breathing at about 12% of their lung capacity. Now, that's a kind of a shocking number. Come on, no way, 99%. Universally studied at all ages around the planet. Olympic athletes, astronauts, people like that are breathing much, much more as they're going into their superhuman selves. But the vast majority of people are sleepwalking. And I mean literally sleepwalking, because when you're breathing 12% of the capacity of your lungs, your brain and nervous system, not to mention all your other organs, is in a state of hypo-oxygenation, severe under oxygenation. So your brain, all your systems that need the fire of oxygen are severely depleted and underfed. So you feel not resourceful. For all my spiritual friends that like the word source, you are not breathing in source the way that you could, because that air isn't physical gases. That's just what they program with. It's living conscious energy that has been the entire universe, and you're breathing the universe in with every breath. Living conscious blinking light that we called atoms of oxygen, atoms of hydrogen, atoms of helium. No, that's just scientific gobbledygook. It's living conscious blinking energy that goes into your cells and becomes your body as you breathe out another exhale with trillions of quadrillions of those cells. So this is not a breath technique. It's a technique to come into presence. And when you do, you're in the state where all that emotional gunk can come up and out without traumatizing you, without being upsetting.
That's perfect. She said, there's so many people saying, hi, family. And everyone's talking about the group. A lot of the group is here. Thank you, Brian, for bringing everybody. But we want everyone to know about this, mainly because what this opportunity is the idea of us creating a movement. You can feel the energy with this whole World Unity Week, and that how everyone left their egos behind and wanted to play. And we're just looking for a way to get together. This technology has allowed us to, this is being shared probably to hundreds and hundreds of different feeds. So what we are able to do here is really make an impact and make better choices, right, Brian?
Well, I you know me in words, right?
I know. I'm afraid to talk.
No, because I'm never correcting, right? I'm never
I
correcting.
know. Enhancing.
I'm always reflecting and never correcting. So I just, rather than a better choice, which keeps us trying to escape from worse choices. Because, you know, one of my, everybody's talking duality,
Okay.
and all of my spiritual friends that are, you know, speaking oneness, but then they're also defending duality, right? And so this, one of the ways that we make ourselves suffer is by trying, we still think in terms of good and bad, right and wrong, better and worse, and positive and negative. So by trying, and I know it's deeply ingrained, I'm not correcting anybody, and if you don't like what I'm saying, I love you anyway, it's all good. But to be trapped in duality, you know, a lot of spiritual people believe, well, we are trapped in duality and we're not going to get out of it. Brian, don't bypass, you know, don't try to spiritual bypass. No, 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 no. It's not about bypassing. It's about admitting that if there's only one, then how could that one be good and bad? Good and bad only exists in the mental, judgmental, in the mind itself. Well, then better and worse, it's the same thing. So again, Kathy, you know, by now, you know me, I'm never correcting. I just use words very differently than most do. And I would never, ever harm myself or put myself in the pain of trying to make a better choice, which will keep me running from the worst choices. And better, my mind says, oh, great, I love that. Oh, that judgmental stuff, better choice, I'll get involved in that. Whereas if I'm tapping into my oneness, I'm going to make the choice that's going to always be the most beneficial to all. And I don't have to think about it.
Okay, so we are on a path to a new reality, and people are waking up from this pause before that's what I call it, the pause before the reset. So how do you see this, your work contributing to that new reality, the new reality of knowing that we're one, and how to use that?
Beautiful. Wow, what a question. Okay, so I will say this. I am neither good nor bad. I'm also neither humble nor proud. And, you know, it's easy to be trapped in trying to get on the right side of one of those.
Okay.
And so I speak really bluntly on this topic, as you know, and asking me that question opens a truckload here.
Okay.
I personally believe everyone here is equally important, because everyone here is actually all one. And so nothing is better or worse than anything else. Nothing is actually more important than anything else. However, at the individual level, if we want to be free, I'm going to say some don't wants. If we don't want them knocking on the door with needles full of stuff we don't want, if we don't want to be fried in a web of 5G at any frequency, if we don't want army tanks in the streets telling us to go back inside, if we don't want to be told you got to stand 6 feet away from another person where your heart fields can't mix, and on and on and on. If we don't want any of those things, the single most important thing that I can do, and I'm proposing the single most important thing that you, if you hear my voice, can do, is not rise up against it. It's not fight against it. It's not gather and join a group against it. It's not buy the biggest load of machine guns that you can. It's to actually, it's not even to join a group. It's to tap into your oneness. It's to go down into the center. So I'm going to say something that might be helpful. It's way out there. I've heard the cosmos described, the sages of all time have said that the cosmos is a sphere or circle whose circumference is boundless and whose center is everywhere. So a minute ago, Kathy, you did that like, woo, woo, woo. I'm with you, okay? Now, if you actually don't just look at that phrase as, okay, well, he's saying some weird stuff. No, if you look at it, the cosmos is a sphere whose circumference is boundless. In other words, it doesn't end.
Right.
And therefore, the center is everywhere. No matter where you go, it's the center, because it goes on forever in every direction. Then that can help you to accept the possibility that you are it. It's not Brian the ego, I'm the creator of the universe. No. It's the one operating behind, within, and as Brian. And if you go down in the very, very, very center of me, you find you. And if you go down into the very center of Donald J. Trump, you find you. And if you go down into the very center in the heart of George Soros and Bill Gates and Kathy Mason and whoever else you could love or hate, if you go down into the very deepest center of them, you're at the center of you. We are one. And you can say that out of one side of your mouth while you're fighting against out of the other side of your mouth, and you will only add to the suffering. What you resist persists is way deeper and truer than the vast majority of us may know. So if the universe is boundless, the ultimate cosmos beyond even the physicality is boundless, and if its center is everywhere, then when you go into the center of anything, you're at the center of everything. So that brings Rumi's quote, right? They're out beyond ideas of right and wrongdoing. There's a field, I will meet you there. Now, if I were Rumi, I would have changed the wording a little tiny bit. Out beyond ideas of right and wrongdoing, there's a field. There we are. Because ain't no meaning, but I honor what he meant. So with that said, what is the single most important thing we can do? And maybe the only thing that really matters is to go into my center, to tap into that oneness, to lay my political polarity that they gave me and then supercharged and got me welded to this group identity, lay that stuff down and look across the aisle. That's me. Wow, I'm crazy. And I'm no longer going to say they're crazy, he's crazy, no, I'm batshit crazy. Where did I get this crap? Wait a minute. Where did I get each and every idea that I have without exception? Where did I get each and every idea that I have about my political party or my affiliation or my religion or anything? Where did I get it? I got it from people who got it from people who didn't ask, where did I get it?
Yeah.
Okay, so I lay that shit down and I look at you and I say, okay, I see you're crazy as hell. And I am so sorry. That is my responsibility. Now, I wouldn't necessarily say that to you. I say it in myself.
Right.
The crazy in me sees the crazy in you. Now let's deal with that. And the way we deal with that is by actually tapping into our own individual oneness, where we find our perfection, and then we see the perfection in everybody else. I mean, I almost feel, you said it a few minutes ago, Kathy, literally, this has never crossed my mind, but when you said namaste, right? I thought for the vast majority of people today, namaste is the most hypocritical thing we can ever say when we're not even dabbling in living in oneness.
Right.
And Dom, that is absolutely at the heart of Ho'oponopono, yes.
Yes. Well, I think that what you're offering is a chance to go way past the normal constructs of thinking, where it's to a place of feeling. And many times people say, if you can feel, you can heal. And that's really what I have found. Lots of tears and lots of curiosity about why did I create that? Or why would I have, what was that about? But realizing that it was my responsibility, and that somehow it served. That's the other thing, is that there's not really, you don't have a shame response with your work. It's just like, oh, there it is. Let's get rid of it. Or let's process it, not get rid of it, but process it.
Yeah, it ultimately it's let's love it.
Yeah.
Really, it's let's love it, because it's so there's a misunderstanding there. There's a misperception there. And to correct a misperception that someone is holding, they're going to want to defend their misperception.
Right.
But if I just meet it with love, no matter what it is, if I just meet it with love, then that's the thing. And to develop the presence so I can meet it in love while it's happening is the ultimate. And then I'm unmaking the matrix while the part of me that I forgot and cut myself off from, we're trying to make it.
It's also simple. I know there, some of the times I've asked you like boundaries for my business, and you're you're saying just love them. It's like, okay, right? I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many, most of truth is simple, but we complicate it.
Well, that's our, it's in a way, Kathy, I would say that we are the chooser of experience who has forgotten that. And so we became the endless overcomplicator of our experience. And like literally when I say this is going to be just way too far-fetched for most people. And I honor that. But for the one or two or three that fully hear it, it'll be worth it. The number one skill that the vast majority of human beings have developed on this planet, and when I say the vast majority, I mean almost everybody, is the skill and the ability of creating endlessly convoluted and complex overcomplications of mental structures that show up as physical structures eventually, to prevent ourselves from realizing that we're actually just one, and that we're already light and love and everything's already perfect. And it's mind-boggling, the trillions of steps because as infinite creators, there's nothing that we can't do. The billions or trillions of steps in the grapevine that we've created to disguise the fact that we're the one doing it all is mind-blowing. So yeah, that overcomplication is legend. And
so I would love to hear some of your success stories. I know I've heard some before, but Brian has a way for people to come to Hawaii and work with him one-on-one in a pretty intense way. And I'm sure you've had people have remarkable changes happen from that. You want to share anything about that?
Yeah, I'll just expand it a bit. So yeah, at the highest level of what I do, I work with people for 4 days one-on-one, and then we do a couple months of video follow-up. And so that's like the pinnacle. I also on occasion do single, just one-on-one sessions, either video or face-to-face, and I do a lot of group programs. And so in every one of those settings, when I'm working with a person for a moment, what occurs for them by me aiming unconditional love at them and helping them to breathe themselves back into presence, and then question what they think and believe that they know. Now, I made it sound almost simpler than it is, but it's really almost that simple. So I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to be a little bit of a smart aleck for a second. I see a lot of names. Those of you that have experienced that with me, if you want to type in a comment of what Kathy just asked, like what kind of things are happening in your lives, I will pick one example. So there's Esther, who just commented a moment ago. She is in my current group program that I'm doing. We had a session yesterday. She also was at a live event that we did in Florida in December. And so I worked with her for a couple of days there. And Esther has been through about as much hell as a human being can go through. Wow. She has a story that is just amazing, and I'm not going to go in any of her personal stuff. She shares it pretty much publicly, but that's her thing, not mine. Just if you can imagine some of the most painful, emotionally and physically painful things that a human being can go through, she has. And I have watched through conversation with her, breathing with her. I have watched, and okay. So she just commented, I welcome you sharing as I am safe and as I am free. Okay. So she was a victim. I do not believe in victims. In my universe, there's no such thing as victims of sex trafficking, and went through some what people would call horrific. Now, Brian, you're not saying it's horrific. No, I'm not saying it's horrific. I'm saying she's an infinite, unlimited being who can't be harmed. And all the people that ever worked with her who agreed that she was a victim who had been harmed were unable to help her. And it was when she saw that I, A, did not see her as a victim who had been harmed or could be harmed, and B, I was also totally compassionate to her feelings. See, that it's that combination. To say you're not a victim, a lot of people instantly assume, well, that's cold and insensitive and uncaring. You know, you're not honoring my experience. No, your feelings are the most important thing in the world. They're creating your universe, those unresolved feelings. So, I care about your feelings. It's just that your story is probably a little bit off. And so, yeah, this woman has changed. Just to see her face is all anybody has to do to see. And we had a pinnacle session yesterday. So she was the first person that popped up when you said it. Now just toss a couple things out here. I don't call myself a healer, and I don't agree with the word when someone says I'm a healer, he's a healer, they're a healer. A lot of people use that word. That's fine. That's wonderful. You do it if you want to. But from where I sit, there's only one infinite, unlimited healer in everybody. So no one is a healer any more than anyone is an empath or an ass or a jerk, or, those are all just labels. Okay. We're all that.
Right.
And so I don't claim that. However, I've had a lot of people that have come to me with cancers, scoliosis, things like this, that whether I knew they had the condition or not, I work with them on their emotions and dissolving things, and their disease just leaves their body spontaneously. There's V who just commented about her experience. She had like severe, this lady had caught on fire. She had like fallen out of a plane. I mean, V's another one. I love you, V. Her story and the things that she had been through. And on one of my free webinars, her entire history, decades of compound post-trauma stress disorder just disappeared.
Wow.
Presence is the answer. Presence to the oneness. So you know that phrase, the power that makes the body is the power that heals the body. So we just open back up to that.
Okay, well, you kind of went quickly through about the processing the emotions, and I wanted to at least explain that a little bit better, because a lot of systems or change systems process emotions. But what this is your philosophy is that you innately as a divine being have fooled yourself into not feeling these feelings until you're ready. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, I don't know if I can talk a little bit about it. Usually I talk for hours about it. Let's see what I can do to keep it brief. So I do this in story form. So here you're born, and the vast majority of people these days are born into the utterly insane cut and burn medical system. And so women are, I don't want to linger here, I'm just going to touch it. Women are taught to have a baby in the most inhumane, unhealthy, difficult, painful way, in a position that doesn't work. I mean, the women who find out about natural childbirth and get to work with a conscious midwife or something, they're literally, the blessing of that is beyond anything. And so whether you were born that way or not, you get born, and then next thing you know, people are sticking needles in you. They're smacking your butt to get you to breathe as if you weren't going to breathe, which if they would have laid you on mom's belly and let the cord do its job, you would have started breathing, right? There's so many things. Then as children, we are taught from the very beginning that we are not welcome, even with the most loving of parents. That unconditional love gets conditional real fast. Then we have traumatic experiences of physical, mental, and or emotional pain, from skinning a knee to being screamed at no when we're touched. Okay, we walk in the room and there's the guitar. Dad has this guitar. Dad loves his guitar. Mom loves her jewelry box or her guitar or whatever they either one of them have. The 2-year-old, 3-year-old little you sees them touching it and enjoying it and having fun. So you walk in and you're touching it, and they walk in and smack your hand when you're in the highest state of joy. That is as severe of an abuse, and it creates as severe of a trauma as anything you could ever imagine for a child at that age. And then when we cry, very often they scold us for crying. There's that good old phrase, the loving parental phrase, I'll give you something to cry about. And so when we try to express our sadness, we get shut down, the vast majority of us. When we try to express our fear, they say, well, I'm going to teach my kid to be self-sufficient. I'm going to make them do it anyway. That's murder to a child. When we go to express our anger, they meet it with a bigger anger that we can't compete with. And so we learn that we're powerless. And with anger, sadness, and fear being those core unpleasant emotions that we don't want to feel, we have no choice but to repress and suppress them. And there is only one way to repress and suppress them, and that is to stop breathing. And so as a child, in early childhood, we begin to choke back our breath and choke back our breath, because if those feelings come up, we're going to get scolded and rejected. And the only two things worse than having our anger and sadness and fear scolded or rejected is, number one, when we expressed our joy and they said, could you shut that racket up? I'm trying to think.
Right.
And the only thing worse than that one was when they actually ignored us expressing our emotions. And we said, this pain is too much. It's more than I can bear. I've got to stop feeling. And so we spend from early childhood, and really basically for the rest of our lives, we spend an amazing amount of our mental creative energy that we could be creating our universe. We aim that energy into creating structures to prevent us from feeling our feelings. And most of that turns into blame and projection that we aim at other people who made us feel this feeling. Okay. Now, how in the world are we supposed to be bringing about the world that we want? We can't, because a lot of our energy is tied up in those emotions. A lot of that energy is tied up in those breaths that we haven't exhaled. A lot of the energy is tied up in making sure we don't breathe. A lot of that energy is tied up in creating all the mental structures. And then we have to defend ourselves and justify and excuse and recover from all the stupid, crazy stuff we do when we're out of control like this. And I'll sum that up by saying this: in my view, the crazy madness that we're seeing in the universe right now, everything you could list, all of it, is the reflection and the projection of my unresolved anger, sadness, and fear, and all the thoughts I've built. It's all reflecting around me in all this madness and control. So I choose to take 100% responsibility. And the only way I can do that, and the only way I can change it, is to continue to tap into the deeper oneness within myself. And there is an element of co-creation for sure. So those people who want it come to me and say, hey, I don't know why, but I feel like listening to your crazy stuff. And then they start tapping into their oneness, and now we are unmaking the matrix.
Well, the reason I think that I've really enjoyed the process with you is that you truly are living in that oneness space where I don't feel judged. I feel that it's safe. You don't really, the only reaction I'll get sometimes is, why did you say it that way? Because my words give clues of what the blocks are. But otherwise, it's amazing the energy space that you create. It's a safe space.
Well, it's you know, I'm going to reflect that back. I agree with you totally. And from my perspective, what I'm doing is I'm being the one that you are. And so because I'm not, you know, one of the things that I use is just gazing, and a lot of people have heard of gazing. So when I'm working with you, communicating with you, Kathy, I'm doing this, or I'm doing this. If we're in the same room, I'm totally eye to eye with you. And I encourage people to look and see, you're not going to find any walls in me. And that helps people to find their walls, because the further they look into me, they're like, wait, this guy, there's nothing hiding in here. There's still, no matter how far I go. And they know that they don't have to hide.
Exactly.
Because I'm not playing those games. If I'm not judging me, I'm not judging you, because I'm you.
Right. Well, but I mean, I think that the creating safe space, I don't know if that's even the right term, because it's so much deeper than that, because your senses, especially highly sensitive people, we're used to protecting our sphere. We're used to only, well, checking out if it's safe. And so when there's something about your vibe that allows, anyway, I would say sensitives or empaths or psychics, however you want to call it, people that have superpowers. And I do believe most people that have had high trauma have superpowers. That's how that's what they've done to cope with their reality. So, but what you do is you hold space for them to finally, maybe for the first time in their lives, have a breath of fresh air. Finally, because even in their families, they're still playing a role. They're still in character mode. But when we come in and work with you and get this knowledge where you reconnect to who you really are, it's a whole different opportunity to touch that oneness in us.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, I honor everyone's beliefs. I have no desire to change anybody's beliefs ever. And the people who come to me for help, it's my responsibility and my honor to them to honor their request to help them look at those beliefs, and I just help them question them. So for me, unconditional love has been the rarest thing in the world.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. So in real truth, all it is, Kathy, is that I unconditionally love you. I unconditionally love everybody. We're all batshit crazy until we're not. We're all lying, backstabbing, crooked, hypocritical fools until we're not, because we're trying to stay alive. We are trying to live. We have no idea the emotional load that we're carrying, and we're doing everything we can to not be aware of the emotional load that we're carrying. We're trying to deny, and then what is left? So I'm choosing to just chill and sit here in unconditional love with the person that's in front of me, and they feel it's undeniable. Okay, I can actually relax here. Wait, no matter what I do, this guy's not going to judge me.
Because
And that is a big part of the process.
See, that's where I think there's so many wonderful processes. Somebody put Ho'oponopono in here, and of course, in Miracles and Brian Katie's work. There's so many wonderful processes out there. But what your process does, or at least how it's helped me, is that I had so many unprocessed emotions that I had blocked from myself. Yeah. And then just even listening to you work with everyone else, I identify one right after the other. And all I do is experience it, and I'm liberated. I mean, that's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So people are putting boom, 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 boom. So Brian, what else would you like to share? We've got only like 5-6 more minutes. I don't want to guide you away from anything that I'm sure there's something amazing that would help us right now to go towards unity.
Okay, so I'm glad you worded it that way, and as you were finishing the sentence, the next thing came through. So I'll just say, and then we'll see where we are in minutes after this. So if you can hear my voice and you can see me, some people probably just listening, that's okay too. I want to ask you a couple questions. Is there any possibility that there's nothing wrong with you? And would you consider the possibility that there's nothing wrong with you? Would you consider the possibility that you are perfect and you were perfect the whole time? That everything has been a misperception? Is it possible that love actually is the entirety of existence, that there's only love here and that everything else is a misperception? So that would mean that bombs falling out of the sky and blowing up so-called innocent people. That would mean that masks. That would mean that either a real or a fake virus, or even a virus that was made in a lab that wasn't killing anybody or that was going to kill everybody. Is it possible that that is actually love too? And that we were sitting, and in this case, I was sitting. Is it possible that I was just sitting in a place in my mind where my perception was skewed, where I perceived it as something other than love, and with a lot of evidence? And in that place in my mind, I was surrounded by other people who totally agree with me, helping me to be even more convinced that I was right. But is it possible that those people around me who were agreeing with me are actually cells in my body, all under the same delusion? Is that possible?
Wow.
Is it possible that the worst enemy out there doing the most nefarious thing to me and us is actually a part of me, showing me something that I've been repressing in myself? Is that possible? I'm not asking if it's true. We don't even need to go there. Is it possible? So is it possible then that if I had a liver cell that was sick, and it began to have a few other liver cells that were sick. Now, I know a lot of people would go to a doctor and the doctor would tell them, oh, that's called cancer. And then they would prescribe a couple of things. That is not the approach that I would take. If I notice something going on in my liver, I'm going to say, hey, liver, I love you. What's going on? And I'm going to listen to those cells. And they're going to tell me exactly what they need every single time without fail, because I actually remember and I didn't succumb to the medical programming. No offense to doctors, I love you all. Doctors, nurses, all of you. Medical system, boy, are you out of your friggin' mind as a whole, okay? Because you don't actually exist. You're an artificial entity. The medical system is an artificial entity of institutionalized energies. And when I step back into my oneness, I say, well, but that's arising and reflecting to me. So that's part of me. How is that me? And when I can take responsibility without blame, when I can take responsibility without a fear of punishment, when I can take responsibility. Imagine if you did have a parent who loved you unconditionally and you broke their most treasured possession. And you knew beyond the shadow of a doubt they loved you, accepted you, and that they had no belief in punishment. You would walk up and say, hey, I'm so sorry I broke this. And they would say, you mean a lot more to me than that thing you broke. It's okay. Well, why don't we just start living that way towards each other? Because what you're waiting for them to do it, but they're not going to do it because they don't feel safe with you not doing it. So what if today I accepted that every upset that I ever perceive out there is an upset in me, no matter how big it may be, because there's no big or small. It's a total paradox. Whether something's big or small is absolute illusion. So no matter how big it may seem, is it possible that that's my stuff arising and reflecting? Then how in the hell am I going to change it by fighting it or gathering in a group to go against it? So I don't care if you're against racism. I don't care if you're against war. I don't care if you're against COVID or the WHO or the CDC or Gates or Fauci or me. If you're against it, you are creating it and you are adding to it every second that you hold that. Wow. So stepping into your oneness is actually the only way out.
Wow. Breathe into that, everybody, because then we're at a whole different capability of co-creating with the universe. And this is a beautiful way to wrap up what you've been so generous again, Brian. Thank you so much. This is the perfect way to co-create with Co-Creators Convergence and World Unity Week. And bless you, my friend. Thank you, brother. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kathy. I really appreciate it. I have a question before you throw me out here. If I don't know all the ways that we can share a link. You know, I guess I have a lot of people that are in my groups that can share this. We just released a brand new webinar. It's on livinginonenessnow.com. And so we don't need to officially share it, but if any of my friends out there want to share that link, people can find it, whether it's in the chat or on wherever else this is being broadcast. We just released it yesterday, and I've already got people saying that it's changing their lives, like literally. It's made for this time, and it's just perfect for this audience. So
okay, well, after we're done, I'll share it with that link.
Perfect. I love you, Kathy. Thank you.
Love you. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thanks, Noel. Bye-bye.
Good to see you.
Same here. Much aloha.
Much aloha.